Hey, Mommy. Welcome to the Mami Collective Podcast. I'm Paulina Rowe, and this is your space, the No BS All Vibes podcast for ambitious moms who know that motherhood and big dreams go hand in hand. Whether you're killing it in the boardroom, hustling on your side gig, or just trying to get through the day without reheating your coffee for the third time, and yes, girl, we've all been there, this is the place for you. We're here to flip the script on the whole you can't have it all narrative, because spoiler alert, you can. Motherhood doesn't dim your ambition, it actually fuels it. And we're going to talk all about it, the wins, the struggles, and the moments that make you say, damn, I am really doing this. So buckle up, boo. We're diving into real talk, inspiration, and the occasional hot take to keep you fired up and thriving. This is the Mami Collective. Let's do this. Yes, we are here, the Mami Collective Podcast, and I am so excited for my guest, Jannese Torres. How are you?
I'm doing so great, and I'm so excited to be here to talk all things money and motherhood with you, Paulina.
I'm so excited, and you said this too, and I quote, this is way overdue. Like, to have you on here is an honor, but now that like we're both, I guess, in this, right, in this mom role, because we know each other for years through social media.
Yeah.
And now it's like, and I got to like watch your story, like firsthand, you know, you announce your pregnancy. Well, first, we'll get into this, but first announce your divorce, sort of, right? Like you were very open about all of that. And then announcing your new boo, which I want to say you soft launched, then you hard launched.
Yes.
I was like, my girl. And yeah, and then, you know, you're engaged now. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you're a mama, just like me, to a girl mom. Or
yes.
You're a girl mom.
Yes. Girl moms are the best. I'm just super biased as somebody who comes from like a very female centric family. I was so excited because I really do believe that we are raising the next generation of change makers, for real.
I agree. No, yeah, I low-key wanted a girl. I mean, high-key, I wanted a girl. I was so like, I really want a girl. I was calling her a girl before I knew. I'm like, she. And my husband's like, you don't even know. Period. I manifested. I'm like, no, it's a girl. I just know it. I didn't know shit, but I was like, I know it's a girl. Jannese Torres is here. I'm so excited. So Jannese Torres is the creator and host of the award-winning personal finance podcast, Quiero Dinero, and the author of the best-selling book, Financially Lit. And, you know, you've been doing this for a hot minute. So how long have you been just, you know, in it, you know, full-time job? I know you did quit that and you fully like immersed into your own stuff, which is incredible. Yo quiero dinero. How long has it been?
Yeah, so I've been content creating on the internet since 2013. I've been doing it full-time though since 2021. So I have had many different lives as a content creator, as a blogger, podcaster, social media influencer, now an author. And like, it's just crazy how my journey into content creation, entrepreneurship, personal finance, you know, pursuing debt freedom, financial independence, just literally me sharing all these things on the internet has become a whole ass brand, a multiple six-figure company that now like employs my family. It's crazy like what can happen when you just put yourself out there on the internet.
I think that's the hardest part for some of us. And to be completely honest, I mean, you know this about me. I do radio, right? I just got home from doing morning radio. And for some reason, I'm having like the hardest time like being open on social media, which I do it for a living. So it's not like this unknown thing to me. But I do know so many people that struggle with that, you know? And what for you, what was it kind of like to get over that hump, if you even had that feeling?
Oh, I definitely have. I like to tell people the reason why I became a blogger is because at least back in the day, it was just, you would just write stuff, right? You didn't have to show pictures. There was no like Instagram reels. There was no TikTok. There was none of that. So you would just go on the internet, you know, publish your little diary post and like move on with your day. And so I never had an intention to be out here public facing, you know, creating video content, like doing speaking engagements. I'm naturally a very introverted person. And so the journey into becoming comfortable, like getting on camera, getting on screen, being a public figure has been me having to like confront, you know, things like childhood bullying, where like I was afraid to put myself out there because of those like traumas, right? The internet is a very sketchy place sometimes, and people be making all kinds of crazy ass comments, but you come to realize that over time, like the importance of you sharing your message is way more important than like worrying about what some troll on TikTok is saying to you, you know? And I think that's the thing that fuels me. I've just taken myself out of the ego perspective where I'm making it all about me. And I like to remind myself, even on those hard days where I'm just like, I don't even know why I'm doing this shit, those moments, those DMs, those messages that I get from people that it's like, your podcast changed my life. Your social media platform helped me start investing. Your content helped me get out of debt. Like that is what keeps me going. And I think for all content creators, reminding yourself like what happens if you don't show up is one of the best motivators for you to continue to show up, even when it's uncomfortable.
100% agree with that. And I think also too, you know, for me personally, I feel like, okay, you know, do I want to share this on social media? And I know you're a mom too. And I am as well. And sometimes I do think about that with like the baby. I'm like, do I want to post or whatever? But I've made the decision where my husband and I have, you know, we talked it over and stuff. And it's like, no, like I do want to share, you know, the journey of being a mom because I find your content extremely relatable. I listen to all your podcasts. I listen to, now that you've launched the, you have kind of like a mom, I call it a section, right? But you have like mom content as well,
right?
When it comes to finances, right? And like mom entrepreneurs, all of that to me is so relatable. So why wouldn't I want to share my journey, right, with other moms who could be going through the same thing? And obviously we're going to dive all into that as well. But I don't know. I think it's important. And I think you're right. I love taking the ego out. I never thought of it that way because at the end of the day, it's like, this is bigger than me. At least it's how I feel, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, I just want to be able to help others if I can, of course.
That's the thing too, right? And motherhood for some reason is like just like money, where there's a lot of people struggling with it, but like nobody wants to talk about it. Like you're just supposed to be out here pretending like you have your shit together. And we do that with our money, and we do that as mothers. And I really am like all about first inviting people to have conversations that maybe you just haven't had the space to comfortably and safely do so, but also like challenging the narratives that we have been told about what you should be doing with your money, about what you're capable of with motherhood and everything in between.
100% agree. So I want to dive into that now, as far as, you know, your mom journey, because for Mami Collective, the reason I really created this was, I'm not going to lie, when I found out I was pregnant, I was excited, but your girl was scared. I was so scared, Jannese. I was like, oh my God, like, you know, growing up, when you would hear somebody become a mom, or you would hear about your own mother, other moms, the story that was painted for me, and maybe this was just, you know, not, I don't know, talked about enough or whatever, was that our moms gave up on their dreams. They gave up on everything for us. And honestly, looking back at it as a mother, I mean, that's the ultimate sacrifice, right? But I feel like maybe that's true, but I feel like it's because they didn't have the resources. They weren't equipped. I think there's layers as to why that happened. I don't think our moms just woke up and were like, I'm throwing my dreams away today. Like, I don't see that. You know?
I totally agree with you. And I actually talk about that in my book, Financially Lit. Like one of the things that was a huge motherhood trigger for me was watching my own mom sacrifice her financial security, sacrifice her own dreams. One of the stories that I tell is that she, for the majority of my adolescence, worked part-time. So she didn't have a job with benefits. She didn't have a job with PTO, 401k, none of that stuff, because she didn't have a support system. She came from Puerto Rico. She was living here with my father. Like that was the only family that we had. And so she, in order to make herself accessible and available to like pick us up from school, take us to activities, do all the things that mothers are expected to do for free, she sacrificed her career, right? And so now, as she is nearing retirement, I'm seeing like the long-term consequences financially of her making those decisions, of not having proper retirement plan in place, of just not having that financial security that having the support of a full-time career could have afforded her, right? So it's like I had for the longest time the exact same perception as you, that like you have to choose. You're either going to be a successful career woman, be out here killing it, making money, or you're going to be a mom. You can't do this shit at the same time. And they're completely in conflict with each other. And it's been a healing journey that I've had to go on with therapy and just addressing like those motherhood wounds, but also being surrounded by incredible mom entrepreneurs, women who are out here like defying the odds, really creating financial security, not just for themselves, but for their families, and like taking no fucking prisoners, you know, understanding there is another option. And, that's why, you know, I love what you do. And I think we need to talk about this more, because I think a lot more people would consider motherhood if they didn't have that narrative, but we have to address like where that's coming from.
That's real. I never thought of it that way. Like, cause I just feel growing up, or even, I don't know. And I'm just throwing examples out there. Let's just say you watch like do you remember the Disney Channel? Like,
Absolutely.
whatever, the movies, right? So, like, I loved all those movies. And, like, when I would think of, like, the mom, right? The person who played the mother, so, like, Lizzie McGuire's mom, or That's So Raven. I mean, they were obviously smaller characters as opposed to, like, the main. But I've always looked at even TV moms as, like, they're just mom. You're just mom. Like, there's nothing more to you. Maybe they do work full time, whatever, but they're just mom. And I think that's also, too, where that comes from, because even though I seen it firsthand with my mom, my aunts, people here, my neighbor who I grew up with as well, I also see it in, like, society, like the representation of moms just being mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew
it's
up
almost
with
like
that.
we're not allowed to have multifaceted identities, like once we become mothers, and I think honestly some of that is societal pressure and expectations that, like, your kids are supposed to be the center of your universe. I don't think that's a healthy perspective, because as a mom, I know I'm raising a person who's going to be a whole ass adult who at some point is not going to need me to be the center of their universe. And if I haven't done the work to curate the other aspects of my life, whether that is my relationship, my friendships, my hobbies, my passions, just my business, I'm going to experience what now I see a lot of older women in my family experience, which is this existential crisis of, like, what the fuck is my purpose in life? Because all I did was pour into motherhood and pour into that role. And now I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. I don't have any sense of identity, and I don't have any sense of purpose. And I think obviously a function of that, for women who are older than us, is that people used to become mothers earlier. So you didn't have that time to explore your career, do all the things that, like, quote unquote, modern women are doing. And so that's why I'm super passionate too about people not falling victim to this shit about, like, oh, I need to be a mom by 25. No, you don't, honey. You need to go and figure out who the fuck you are at 25. Okay. Because there's a lot of life that you should live and a lot of things you should get out of your system before you become a mom, so that you don't become one of these people that's resentful and, like, putting all your broken hopes and dreams on your children. Because I know we all know moms who, like, are trying to live vicariously through their kids because of all the things that they sacrificed. And that's not healthy.
Damn, I never thought of it that way. I don't know if you grew up like this, but, like, your parents or your mom maybe, like, expected you to be this or this when it came to your career.
Oh,
and now
absolutely.
looking back at it, though, hold on. Like, now I feel like I'm in therapy. Looking back at it, like, I got that often, but now that I'm a mother, I don't think I ever, I mean, she's a baby, but I've never thought of, like, oh, really want her to go be this. She's got to be a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor. Like, she can be whatever the hell she wants to be. Like, I'm going to be very supportive. If she's got a skill, a craft, like, we're leaning into it. But that's wild that, like, especially because both of our parents, they're not from the U.S., so that also could be a cultural part to it as well. But I never thought of it that way. Maybe it was like, because we all want our kids to be better than us, of course, but maybe for them it was this, like, specific route, and maybe they wanted that in their lives but couldn't achieve that.
Yeah, that immigrant pressure is real. Like, I've talked to people with parents from all over the world, and there is this, like, universal expectation that you have to make the sacrifice worth it. And for a lot of people, that might be, like, following a career path that makes a lot of money, but not necessarily is going to make you happy, And I think one of the hallmarks I've noticed about immigrant parents is that, like, this idea of becoming the most fully expressed version of yourself, like, we don't do that shit. You know what I'm saying? Our kids don't go and, like, go on an eat, pray, love journey. We go to school, you get good grades, you get a scholarship, you go and get your master's and your PhD, and you pursue, like, high powered careers. And then I talk to so many people in their 30s and 40s who are just like, I literally don't even know whose life I'm living, but it's not mine. And then there's this, like, reckoning that has to happen for a lot of people where it's like, how much of your life is a result of this pressure that you have felt from your parents to achieve these things that they couldn't achieve because of the sacrifices that they made?
I mean, all of this is so valid and so real. And it's crazy because, like, now that we're looking into it with different perspectives, right? Like, different lenses, which is the mom lens. Yeah. I don't know. A lot of things, I don't know. I can see why our parents did what they did. I do truly believe at the core they always wanted the best for us. I do truly believe that,
Absolutely.
For the most part, and they obviously wanted what's best for us, and they did the best with what they knew at the time, right? Because shit, I might look back, my daughter might look back at me and be like, Mom, why'd you do that? Because I'm over here thinking, well, this is the best, we're doing the best. Hopefully, when it's not the case, fingers crossed. But I think each generation will we'll all have our stories, right? I'm sure your daughter will look back and be like, Ma,
it's true. I think our parents, they were focused on survival, right? And so they have raised us with that mentality. Whereas like now I think our generation that has had access to so many different opportunities and resources and privilege, we are in like a thrive mindset. Like we don't want to just survive. We want to become the best version of ourselves. And so I think that's where the disconnect happens. And hopefully that's like what we're passing on, right? We're passing on the permission to thrive. It's not about we're out of survival. And we don't want to continue that like mindset because it's just going to keep us playing small and ain't nobody got time for that. Our kids got to be out here literally knowing that they can do whatever the hell they want.
I love it. So Jannese, obviously you've built an incredible platform, right? When it comes to financial empowerment. My question for you would be like becoming a mom now. So, or those who are thinking about motherhood, right? What has shifted personally your perspective on money? Like how has your perspective changed? I think I know the answer, but how has your perspective changed when it comes to finances now that you're a mom?
Yeah. So, I think for the longest time, I was very much in like, I need to just shore up my financial foundation before I can even think about motherhood. For me, the idea of being financially insecure as a parent is like hella triggering. And part of that has to do with just seeing the financial struggles that my parents went through, like, layoffs and having to move because of the landlord and doing all these things that like create a lot of instability in our lives. So that for me was like, I will not become a mom unless I feel like financially I can weather whatever storm is coming, because we know life is going to life. And especially when you're a mom, it's like, damn, you got to plan for shit. You don't even, it's really easy for you as like a single Pringle out here in the world to like pick up and go and like make the changes that you need to make. When you have a child, it is not that easy to be as flexible. Right.
Correct.
And so I really wanted to get myself in a place where financially, I did not have to worry about things like my retirement, about my earning potential, about my career, all that stuff. And so I spent the majority of my 20s and 30s really getting serious about my money, paying down debt, getting out of student loan debt, really bulking up my investments, working on increasing my income, career hopping, side hustling, like just really doing all the things that you can do when you don't have the responsibility of a child. And so I started approaching like my late 30s. I got divorced and I was back on the dating scene and thinking about like, wonder if motherhood's going to be a thing for me. I met my partner and that switch turned on that people talk about, right? Like the biological clock all of a sudden was activated because now I'm with a person that I can actually see this happening with. And so it was something that I had this new urge to pursue, but also I was still feeling a lot of like the triggers around money. I'm just like, fuck, am I actually in the right financial position to do this? Like, what happens if I have a child and like I can't work as much, or like what if they're special needs, or there's like so many things that can go on in your head of like trying to plan for the unknown. And I realized like if I just live in that mindset forever of just like trying to predict everything that could possibly happen, like I'm never actually going to make a decision about it. And so, it really came down to understanding that I have a lot of evidence to show that I am capable of dealing with a lot of different life issues. I have the ability to really rebuild what I have if I lose it all, because nobody can take my knowledge. Nobody can take, my skills. And so that was kind of the wake-up call that I needed. For a long time, I was out here pursuing the financial foundation. Once I got there, I started having the greater existential question about like, what's all this for? What's the purpose of all this stuff? And then, when I realized that like motherhood was a thing that I wanted to entertain, I looked at my numbers and I looked at my lifestyle and I looked at all the things that I've done for so many years to be in a position where I could make this decision with as much comfort as possible and, pull the trigger.
I love it. And you mentioned comfort, right? And I'm very clear, and I know you are too, that like everyone's motherhood journey is so different and people are in different places in their lives, careers, 100% noted. My question is to you, how did you go into this being as prepared as you can be, right? And what are like your non-negotiables, right? Like what are you doing to make this a comfortable, good experience for you? Because if you're not good, if mama's not good, the house, baby, like we're all falling apart. You know what I mean?
I'm so glad you asked this question because I think a lot of people, when they are considering motherhood or even like in the beginning stages or pregnancy, you're thinking about things like the nursery, what's the color, the scheme of the nursery is going to be, or like when are we going to announce the gender, or like what the baby shower theme is going to be. And I was not worried about those fucking questions. I'm worried about like, how am I going to run a business after having a child? What are we going to do for child care? Like what's the situation going to be from a financial perspective? Like what resources do I need, not only during pregnancy, but after and postpartum, to recover, to make sure I'm getting rest, to make sure that I have the energy, the time, the space to like get back to normal. Right. And so one of the things that I was planning for was maternity leave. As a self-employed person, I have to structure my own maternity leave, right? I'm not working for a corporate company, and I didn't have disability insurance that was going to pay for me to be on maternity leave. So one of the things I had to do as a business owner is shore up my cash reserves for giving myself some runway to not work for a couple of months, looking at diversifying my income so that I'm not just having to show up for things like speaking engagements or teaching my workshops or, things that require my active labor. I was working on diversifying my income through passive income streams. I have a lot of different ways that I make money as a business owner, both as like a content creator, but also like I have an Airbnb, I have investments. I have things that are like outside of my business that continue to give me like, financial protection. I have insurance, right? Like there's a lot of different things that I had to take into account to make sure that financially this was going to be something viable.
Right.
And so, bulking up my emergency funds, making sure that I could rely on passive income streams that were going to allow me to some space. And waiting, like I think that's the thing too with motherhood. There's so much pressure, and there's so many of these like scary statistics online that is like, oh, if you wait till after you're 35, you're basically freaking barren, and you're gonna have to do IVF, and you're gonna have to do all this shit, and you're probably never gonna be able to have a child. The best thing that I did for myself, like both from a emotional intelligence standpoint, from a financial health standpoint, is wait. I have my daughter at 39, and I have no regrets about waiting, because I actually got to really do all the shit career-wise, professionally, travel, experience-wise. I literally have no regrets going into the experience. And I think, waiting too can give you the space to get your financial shit together and to put the systems in place that you then need to make this a more enjoyable experience. And I'll tell you one thing that I did that I was saving for as part of my postpartum, care package was budgeting for a night nurse. Because I'm telling you right now, I can do a lot of things, but not without sleep. Okay. I need a full 8 hours of sleep once in a while. And we all know the stories about, the sleepless nights with a newborn and the stress that can put on you, your body, your relationship, your ability to run your business or, do your job properly. And so that was a non-negotiable for me. I'm like, I need to have the support to actually recover and sleep and give space to myself so that I can show up as like the best version instead of the depleted version that so many of us think is like the only option as a mom.
Yeah, I had a mom tell me once that suffering isn't a badge of honor. And I was like, hell yeah. Like, yeah. It is not, like, don't get me wrong. I know some days, even if you do have help, like some days are just mentally tough. That's motherhood, like, period.
The motherhood, what do they say? It's the most ghetto hood there is out there.
It is, but it is. I know. It is. It's hard. I'm not even going to lie. It is hard. It is rewarding, but it is hard. But yes, there's also like, I don't know if it's called eras, chapters, like there's always new stuff. Obviously, like you've seen where it's like your daughter when she was a newborn versus, when she hits 6 months, a year, like my daughter's almost a year. It's like, I have like a different version of her, because she's a person and she's growing. Right. Some days are tough, but some days really are just so much fun. And I love being her mom. Like, that's what I love. I love being her mother. There's no better feeling. And I love what you're saying, because I'm such an advocate for outsourcing, right? And for being okay with that. Like, and I think you and I align on this, like, there's no guilt over here. I'm gonna be so fucking for real. There's no guilt. I am a huge advocate of the village. And if I didn't have that village, I would have outsourced it. And I'm still looking. I'm still looking for a potential Spanish-speaking part-time nanny, because even when I'm home, because I get home pretty early, I still have things to do, like this podcast. I still have things to do, and I want to be able to like get things done so I can spend like the evening with my daughter uninterrupted. And if my mom and my in-law, whatever, aren't around, like I would really love, some kind of help. And I'm telling you, there's no guilt in that. And I know a lot of times, like you mentioned too, like this, like people try to shame other moms, and that's the one thing I can't stand about the mom community. I love us, but we are some of the most judgmental people. And I'm like, oh my God. So much, there's so much with that too. And I definitely want to dive into that. But when it comes to like outsourcing and the night nurse, I looked into that too. And I was going to do it. And one thing a lot of people might not know too about night nurses is, especially if you're a new mom, like when I was doing my research, and I know this woman in Chicago who owns a doula, or like a night nurse doula company. I met with one of them, and she did my, what is it called? The capsules for the placenta.
Mm-hmm.
I did that, and I was like, oh, this is cool. So we talked about other stuff. And the night nurse really does assist with like many things too. Like if baby's sleeping, it's 2 a.m., night nurse, honestly, she'll cook for you.
Yeah.
She'll do dishes, like these things too that like also will help you the next day. And obviously if that's included right in your package, but I thought that was so cool. And then honestly too, one thing that I learned was like my friend had a night nurse. She didn't know how to do certain things. I want to say she was having like latching issues. Other things were going on. But the night nurse was there to assist.
Yeah.
So a lot of times these resources, right? These people that you may lean on, like really help you in other ways,
It's true. Yeah. I was having an issue with like my daughter having reflux. Like we worked through that, just sleeping. I mean, they are newborn care specialists is like the technical term of what these people do. And so, it's like the fact that there are these resources out there, I think we need to stop gatekeeping and also being ashamed of talking about the fact that we do take advantage of these resources. Because I live in a very like upper middle class neighborhood, and I see the nannies, I see the caretakers out here, and like ain't nobody out here ashamed of paying people to help them with their kids. And for some reason it's just like one of those things that people don't want to talk about, but like it's like we see that shit. It's like, how is mom here at Pilates at 10 o'clock on fucking Tuesdays? Because somebody is helping her take care of her child. How did you snap back? Because you got somebody coming to your house to cook for you. You know what I'm saying? So like, let's stop making it, the freaking championship competition for like, who's the most stressed out mom? Because there's no award. There's no cape for like the most exhausted mom of the year. And I'm definitely not trying to replicate the exhaustion and the resentment and all the things that I saw as like what the motherhood experience is through experiencing that through my mom and mothers in my family. Like it's just not the vibe. And I knew that that's not the way that you show up as your best self as a mother. And so I'm not trying to replicate any of that.
I couldn't agree more. Like I'm telling you, no guilt over here. And I am 100% not wearing that damn cape just to show you guys,
hang it up.
Like, no. And I think personally, that's why you and I do enjoy motherhood. And we, like I said, there are days that may be tough, but it's never been to the point where it's unbearable, right? Or to the point where like you really just want to quit this. Like there ain't no quitting, but you know what I mean? I think that there's days that are hard, but I do think that we get past it because, like you said, being prepared, the resources, being open to these, ideas that like help is very much okay. Yeah. And I also want to take a moment to shout out your fiance. I know that he's also super involved, obviously. And I think a good partner, don't come for me, people, but I think a good partner makes a big difference.
Oh, hell yeah. You're absolutely right about that. And one of the things that I've talked about openly is our decision to have him become a stay-at-home dad, because I was thinking about like, what are the different options for us for childcare? I work from home. I run my business from home. I travel a lot for work. And it just made so much sense financially and like emotionally for me to know that she is with someone who is going to keep her safe, who I don't have to worry about when I got to hop on a business trip, like who is taking care of my child. That's the thing for me. I wanted to really feel like in control of the situation. Yeah. Whereas, a lot of moms are not in control of what happens after they have their baby. America's the only industrialized country in the world where there is no guaranteed paid maternity leave, right? And so the system is not set up to support mothers And
No.
so we literally have to create our support systems. And hopefully, if your partner can be that, that's going to take a big load off of you. We're done with the days where like women are just the primary caretakers of children. We're not doing that shit. It's equal partnership. Y'all had equal, effort into putting this person on planet Earth.
Yes.
And so we really need to like be asking our partners to step up and help us with this load, because even in a quote unquote 50-50 situation, the mental load that mothers carry of just managing the family, you never are going to outsource that, right? There's just a connection that we have with our children that like nobody else can understand.
Correct.
But we can ask for our partners to step up as much as possible to support that.
I love it. Shout out. Yeah, shout out. Your fiance's name is Ray?
Yes.
Shout out to Ray.
Shout out to you, boo.
Oh, I love it. I feel the same way. My husband's, he's a fireman, so he's like on certain days and off certain days. And there's no better feeling than waking up, right? Me going to work at the, ass crack of dawn at 4 a.m. But like my baby gets to sleep in and her dad gets to spend the morning with her until I get home. Like there's just no better feeling. And I'm not going to lie, it took me a second to kind of get there. I think because I maybe was programmed to think like, oh, he can't do it. And he damn sure can do it. And he does a great job. Or maybe also just like that primal instinct when like she was first born, and like I was like, oh my God, I have to grab her like she's mine, because postpartum's real too. I didn't have anxiety or depression, but I feel like I had this like, I don't know what it was. I couldn't really be away from her for too long. And I kind of had that thing. I don't know if you had it either, where like somebody else was holding her and you're like,
girl,
I need it back. I need her back. Like, give me.
It's so true. And, I think we need to lean into that too, because, that intuition that we have as mothers about like, what are the good, safe spaces for our children to be in? Like, don't let that intuition go. But, speaking about what you're mentioning, where it's like you almost have this internalized pressure to like do all the things and be there. My partner and I, at one point, I was having like a lot of, emotions around not feeling like I had space to do anything other than like mothering or running my business. And I was like, I feel like I don't get to like leave the house much. I want to go back to working out, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you need to tell me these things. Like, I'm not going to just know this. And you also need to like be okay with understanding that you need these things. And it's going to require you to take a step back, let somebody else handle it, and I was like, I know, but it's so hard. It's so hard. It sounds so much easier than it does, but we do have to be our own advocates, right? Nobody's going to help you if you don't fucking ask for help. And that's one of these things too, that, I think as mothers, it's very natural for us to want to like advocate for our kids, right? Somebody steps to your kid, bitch, we're about to fight. Like, take my earrings off. There's no question about that. But when it comes to like fighting for ourselves, fighting for what we need, there's this fear or just like this sense of, oh, but I'm going to be judged. Maybe I'm just not trying hard enough. Maybe I'm just not good enough. And I promise you that's all bullshit. You need to just get as good as advocating for yourself as you are for your child.
Every day I'm practicing this because I'm the worst advocate for myself ever in my whole life. But now that I'm a mom to a girl, right? I'm like, listen. I was like, she's going to grow up. She's growing up. She's watching me more than I think she is. Do I want her to look at me and be like, oh, my mom never spoke up, or my mom never advocated for herself, or, stood for what she believed in? Do I want that?
No, ma'am.
So I'm like, okay, she's watching me. Like, I have to be that example because we are their first examples, right? And I always said, I want to be so kind and I want her to really be a caring, loving human, but I want her to stand on business. Like, because I never did as a child or an adult. Like, I still struggle with it. Like, she's going to be the opposite of me and they're going to hate to see her coming. Like, they are.
We love it. We are raising the next generation of badass women who are just not going to take any shit.
I love it. So speaking of that, generational curses, right? You do talk about that a lot. You're like, we're breaking them. Like, that's what, you've been saying I listened to your podcast at least for 6+ years, right?
I love that.
I love your podcast. It's one of my faves. So keep doing what you're doing. So my question for you is, with your daughter, do you feel like there are certain generational curses, right, that she won't even, I don't know, be privy to, essentially? Like, do you feel like your upbringing, her upbringing are going to be very different?
Oh God. I mean, it already is. I like look around at the neighborhood that we live in, the house we're in, the car we drive, like the conversations that we're having, the energy in the house. I mean, this shit is like completely different. And my partner says it all the time. He's like, yo, This little girl is like literally, she has no idea like how lucky she is.
No idea.
And, one of the things that I do as a mom, because I know that financial instability was like such a huge part of my childhood, I'm investing for my daughter, right? Like she's got investment accounts. She got a 4-figure net worth and she's not even like 3 months old. You know what I'm saying? So this girl's got investment accounts, bank accounts, like she's going to be good. And so I think about just like what those resources are going to mean for her when she gets older, not having to worry about like, how am I going to pay for school? How am I going to afford my first home? Am I going to have to pursue a career that I necessarily don't like because it's the one that quote unquote makes money? I don't want her to feel cornered in any aspect of her life. I want her to be able to pick up and go, go travel the world, go study wherever you want to study, go be with whoever you want to be with. If you got to get rid of them, money's not going to be an issue. I just want her to have the freedom to choose. And that is what is at the core of like what I do for her. That is the biggest generational curse that you can break. It's just like having somebody who literally has a pair of wings that they can fucking fly as high as they want to. Like that's the vibe.
Oh my God, I couldn't agree more. I look at my daughter and I'm like, this sounds so sad, but even her having her dad and her biological grandma from her dad's side around, girl, it's like a whole different, like I'm witnessing a whole different world that she's growing up in, right? And I mean, it is, right? I was born in 92. She was born in 2024. Very different times. But I look at it and I'm just like, you will never know what it's like to have to go, like when I was in high school, we used to go, me and my friend, we were so bad. We used to go pawn our gold. We could, I was such a fucking clown. But I would pawn my mom's gold so I could like go buy whatever I wanted to buy, right? That girl will never know that feeling. She'll never have to do no stupid shit like that unless she just genuinely wants to make me mad. But like, it's just wild to think of these like things, and it's crazy to think that because I want my daughter I want her to grow up to know that like, she was put in this position where, her parents made shit happen for her, right?
Yeah.
I know like a lot of us moms, like we really just want that for our babies. So what kind of advice can you give moms listening, right, when it comes to like saving, investing, anything like that? How are you doing it? And obviously, it can be as specific as you want that to be. And then number 2, how are you going to do it as she gets older? Are you going to make her like do chores? Like how are you going to, make her earn her money, quote?
Yeah, we're not about to raise like a spoiled, entitled rich kid who like doesn't know the value of a dollar too. So I think it's definitely going to be important for us to instill things like understanding that your effort equals the result, and creating different scenarios where she can learn that lesson. But I think my best advice is like, before you think about investing for your kids, are you good? Because one thing that I make moms aware of is that like, if you were not able to save for college, there's student loans, right? There's mortgages if you want to buy a house. There's lots of different lines of credit to do the big adult things, but there is no financial aid for retirement. And one of the things that happens to a lot of kids is that they end up being their parents' retirement plan, especially if you're a first generation, if you have immigrant parents who did not have access to investment accounts, traditional employment, all those things. And so I think the best thing that I can do is make sure that I'm good so that my daughter doesn't have to factor me into her life decisions, how so many of us have to. So before you think about, opening an investment account or a college savings account for your kid, like, are you good? That's the best thing that you can do for your child, is breaking that cycle of dependency so that they literally do not have to factor you into their life choices. Because I know people who literally are not going to have kids because they're going to have to take care of their parents. They might not be able to pursue the career that they want to pursue or live where they want to live because their family, their mom, their dad is like an actual thing that they have to financially plan for. And that for me feels like a very heavy burden that I don't want to pass on.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's hard, I feel like I'm still learning a lot, like I'm not in a financially, I don't know what to call it, financially lit. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not in like a financially, like, I don't know, healthy place yet. I know I'm getting there and I'm doing the right steps, and I know you talk about this a lot on your podcast too, and kind of how to get there, but my thing is I don't want my daughter to make the same mistakes I did, to be completely honest, I want her to be set up. And like you said, I want her to like know the value of a dollar. But I also want to help her as her mother, just like our parents, I think, tried the best they could at that time, Stuff to consider, man. It's a lot. It's a lot, when you're having a kid.
It is a lot. And, I think we need to give ourselves grace too, especially if like you're the first person who's even thinking at this level. I didn't have any financial literacy lessons taught to me growing up. All I've had is, access to the internet and self-teaching, listening to podcasts, reading blogs, reading books. And so I think the most important thing too is to pass on that information, pass on that financial literacy. That's a huge investment that you can make in your child, because if you're just out here trying to like break that, generational poverty curse, but you're not equipping your child with the information, the knowledge, the skills to be good stewards of the money, you're only doing half the work, and that's why they say a lot of the times that by the third generation, wealth is gone, because you can't pass on money without the skills to actually grow it and make it last. So if right now you're not in a financial position to actually invest and build wealth for your child, at least educate them. Expose them to the information. If you're on a debt payoff journey, involve them. Have them watch you like make financial progress. Have them watch you open an investment account. Explain to them what you're doing. Next time you're enrolling in like your 401k benefits or whatever it is, like involve them, because they are going to have to confront all this shit as adults. And nobody's going to teach them if it's not you. HR is not going to teach them. Their school's not going to teach them. You need to be the one to teach them.
Imagine if schools taught us shit.
Slowly but surely, some states are passing legislation that requires personal finance education at some point in your education, but that's still not enough. One semester of personal finance education is not going to teach you everything that it is to know about money. And so this needs to be an ongoing conversation. And I think involving your kids as early and as often as possible is one of the best investments that you can make.
100% agree. I love it. I have a question for you regarding your ambition and kind of how you're continuing to, run your business and do, like you always say, do all the things.
Yeah.
So for you, I always have said, and even in the beginning of this podcast, I have literally this tagged in the podcast saying, that they say motherhood dims your ambition, but I believe that it fuels it. So you've already done so much prior to even becoming a mom, right? And I know you've done a lot even during your pregnancy, or like me, like I just didn't stop. We just kept on going. But I love it. I love it. And I know that this also is your passion. It's your calling, So I think it all in all just ties in so beautifully. And of course with your daughter now too. And I think that's awesome. So now for you, what do you have to say to that, right? When people are like, oh, we kind of cover this a little bit, but my question is also, what are you doing additionally now, or what will you be continuing to do? Because I know that motherhood has fueled you even more.
Yeah. I think, well, first it's given me a brand new perspective on like what the experience is like, right? Because as a business coach, before becoming a mom, there's advice that I could give that was not relevant to mothers. Whereas now having that perspective of just understanding what the time limitations are, what the stresses are, what the resource or lack of thereof looks like, I think it helps me be a more empathetic and like relatable person in the space. It's definitely fueled me to have higher level conversations around this topic. I've talked about this so much on social media that if you actually want to enjoy motherhood, money helps. Okay. Like we cannot ignore the fact that there is a huge benefit to having financial resources that give you the space to actually enjoy this process. And so I think I'm even more fueled than ever to empower mothers specifically to get their financial shit together, to feel like it is not just like a responsibility, but like a duty to put yourself in a position where like you can be the best version of yourself for this experience. You're only going to get to do this once, right? Like if you have one child, that's it. You got one chance to like enjoy this experience, make it the most of your life, and like not look back with regrets. And so for me, it's going to be continuing to empower women, mothers around the conversations around money. I think financial independence is something that I have personally now been able to experience the true power of. Now being a mother, knowing that I don't have to go back to a job that I hate because I got to pay the bills. I don't have to sacrifice time with my daughter because I need to pay for daycare. I have so many options to like really curate this experience and make it what I want. And money does that shit. And we have to stop pretending like it doesn't matter, So that's what I want to continue to do, is just really speak from the mountaintop. Like, if you want to enjoy being a mom, money helps.
But that's real, and we
Yeah.
can't deny that.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
So what about, moms who either have a side hustle or are looking to create a side hustle? I think Yo Quiero Dinero literally was a side hustle, right?
Yeah.
Until it became what it is today, which is just so incredible, by the way. And I ask this because I do know a lot of stay-at-home moms, right? I personally, and I feel like you would agree, like, being a stay-at-home parent, really, I mean, it's a huge sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're leaving a career, or obviously, you're giving your time to be home pretty much 24/7 on call.
Mm-hmm.
And I always say that truly it's one of the hardest jobs. I mean, when I was on maternity leave, it was not that long. It was 6 weeks. So I'm not going to compare any oranges to apples, but it was only 6 weeks. But I literally felt like I was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose it, because I know deep inside, like, I'm like, this isn't for me. So I do what works for my family. I know you do as well. And that's just period, point blank. I always say, do what works for your family.
Yeah.
But I do know moms who, and we kind of talked about this too, not that they're having an identity crisis, but a lot of them have said, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't recognize myself, right? I don't know who I am outside of mom. And that's why I do believe a side hustle can be a form of, I don't know if it's even like therapeutic, but, obviously it's a financial asset. But also I think it might just be good for brain stimulation at this point for some moms.
I agree. I think it is so important for you to have something other than being a mom as like the thing that defines you, because I think women are so prone to like embracing the caregiver roles that we have, whether that's mother, sister, daughter, whatever, and we forget to pour into ourselves, right? Yeah. And so I think that work is so therapeutic because it just allows you to like shut off that caregiving responsibility for a little bit and allows you to really foster creativity and just, explore different sides of yourself. I think side hustling is such a fun thing for me. I think a lot of people put like this pressure on themselves to like figure out how to make money right away. I approach side hustles from a place of curiosity. Like, I just want to explore this and see where it goes. I never set out to create a podcast that now is like 5-time award-winning show that now has given me a book deal and like speaking engagements and all these things. That was not the goal. The goal was, I want to talk to people. I want to have interesting conversations. I want to hear conversations that like I'm not hearing. I want to find where the hell are the Latinas that are talking about business and money. And so when I couldn't find that, I curated the space. And I think it comes back to the thing that women do so well. And the reason why, more and more women entrepreneurs are creating these incredible businesses is because they're community focused usually. There is such power in community, and a community can literally become a business. I created a community on social media that then became a full-on media company, and so I think that's the core of what we're looking for in general. That's why motherhood can feel so lonely for so many people, because there is that lack of community. And so taking a look at like a side hustle that allows you to build some sort of community, I think is a great place to start. If you find yourself craving conversations, craving more information about a topic, wanting to share your personal experience, like that is the place where I think most of us can start to curate the identity outside of motherhood and really surround yourself with people who you didn't even know existed in the world. Like, I have so many incredible mom entrepreneur friends now that are a direct result of me starting this business, and they fucking get it. They get it in a way that your tia or your mom or people who are not in this realm just don't understand. And so it's really important to like do something that creates a community around you that can then support you and those goals.
I 100% agree. And I believe on your website, you have a free resource about even finding a side hustle that might interest you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the side hustle personality quiz. And so I invite anybody who like knows they want to do a side hustle, but don't necessarily know what type of side hustle would fit with what your personality is, to take that quiz. I have so many different resources on the website. You can check out all of that at yoquierodineropodcast.com/links.
You are incredible, Jannese. And I'm so happy we did this. You have no idea. Makes me really happy. It warms my heart to just have other like-minded moms, in my circle, my community, obviously, in our Mami Collective and all that good stuff. So I appreciate you so much and your time today. I would love for you to plug your social media for those who want to make sure like they're still connected with you. And then one more time, your website for those who want to go check that out, the resources.
Absolutely. So you can tune into the Yo Quiero Dinero podcast wherever you're listening to this one. I am Yo Quiero Dinero podcast across all social media platforms. The website is yoquierodineropodcast.com. And if you want access to my free resource guide, all you got to do is head over to my Instagram DMs and let me know what you need. We got it.
That's very true. That's very true. I can attest to that. Awesome. Jannese, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.